that history is important because it lives. It's a living thing. And it's situated right here at St. Augustine's, and so that's what we're interested in doing, is bringing this history to the community and making this place matter for the future as much as it's mattered for our people in the past. Hi, my name is Chris Manjapra, and I'm the Director for History in Action for Cambridgeport. History in Action for Cambridgeport is a community-based nonprofit. We are a group of volunteers, and we're committed to three main goals. Number one, gentrification prevention at a historic Black church in Cambridgeport called St. Augustine's. This is our home. Number two, at St. Augustine's, we're interested in research and investment in this property. And third, we're interested in reactivating this property, in making it a home for culture and arts for our neighborhood. Here we have a historic place with deep history, and I am a historian, and so I feel very much called to figure out what this place wants. I come from an Afro-Caribbean family, and this meeting house has been a center of Afro-Caribbean life in Cambridgeport for decades. Over the course of the 20th century, 1910s through the 1950s. We could almost think of that as the Great Caribbean Migration. And St. Augustine's was a hub, a center of life for the Caribbean people moving up to places like Boston during that period. So much so that this church is actually very important for the United Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA, which was a movement founded by the Jamaican radical Marcus Garvey. This happened to be the Pro-Basilica, it was called, of the UNIA movement. It also has been a project of strengthening our bonds together, our relationships together, becoming a more beautiful, fuller neighborhood together. And frankly, the love that the community of team members, of volunteers and neighbors who work with BAC share, and the way that that has grown through this project has been one of the most precious things for me. Black History in Action for Cambridgeport is actually interested in starting a small neighborhood revolution. And the idea of this revolution is to find places that have deep history, frankly places in which our ancestors are still alive, to protect those places so that they remain common property, places where we all can come and share, and then in those places to grow and strengthen our bonds together. What gentrification does is it actually cuts our connections with each other. Even more because of the pandemic, we have to address that alienation, and we can only address it if we in some ways close our devices, turn off our computers, and actually show up in places and do things together. Not only did we put a new roof on this building, but the whole exterior of this building is almost close to being fully preserved. We're having events that bring artists, that bring musicians, that bring public historians into this space. One of the most beautiful things is when people who are strangers, walk by St. Augustine's and they hear the music that's in the inside coming out, or they hear a lecture that's taking place, and they walk in and they find community, which is their neighborhood and their community. We're doing what St. Augustine's has had long done for decades. We're just finding a new, 21st century way of continuing that legacy. Given the history of how Cambridge has been gentrifying, finding ways to keep hold of our history, but also finding ways to keep hold of our connections together as a neighborhood, as a community, is super important. And that's what we hope to continue to do at BAC.